Why Athena turned a weaver into a spider. Hey guys, tonight we're headed back, way back to a world of olive trees and starlit looms, where goddesses walk the earth and mortals sometimes dare to challenge them. You're in ancient Attica now, just before the crickets begin their nightly concert. The air smells like warm earth and crushed sage. An owl hoots somewhere nearby, not ominous, just observant. A light breeze flutters across your skin as you make your way down a dirt path toward a sleepy village, the kind with more sheep than people and more myths than sheep. You pass women sitting outside their homes, their fingers working rhythmically through strands of wool, turning nothing into something, threads into cloth into life. You notice that no one rushes, not even the goats. This is a slow world, but it has teeth. You pause by a fountain where a marble statue of a tall, helmeted woman stands beside an olive tree, its branches heavy with fruit. Someone's carved a little offering bowl beneath her feet, a few coins, a sprig of lavender, a spool of gold thread. This is Athena's village, or at least she thinks so. See, in this world, weaving isn't just something to pass the time before dinner. It's sacred. It's your legacy, your survival, your connection to the divine. If you can weave well, you're closer to the gods. If you weave poorly, well, best to not even start. And if you claim you can weave better than a goddess, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and what time it is, where you're listening. I love seeing where everyone's tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The moon's out now, casting a gentle silver over the rooftops. You wander past the looms again, and for the first time you notice something odd, the patterns. They aren't just flowers and vines. Look closer. One depicts a giant boar leaping through a crowd of panicked villagers. Another shows a woman throwing herself off a cliff. Yet another, so faint you almost miss it, shows a goddess descending from the sky cloak, billowing like a storm. These aren't just weavings, they're stories, warnings, memories made of thread. In Attica, there's a belief that every important thing is woven before it's lived. Fate itself, according to legend, is spun by three sisters, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. One spins the thread of life, one measures it, and the third, well, she's the one with scissors. Snip. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, doesn't wield scissors. She wields a shuttle. And while she may be known for strategy and stern lectures, her love for crafting, especially weaving, is deep. She's the kind of goddess who could design a battle plan and embroider it onto a tapestry before breakfast. And yet tonight there's a sense she's not entirely at ease. The statue by the fountain seems to watch you as you pass again. Somewhere beyond the hills, thunder rolls, though no storm is forecast. A sheep bleats like it knows something you don't. Historians still argue whether Athena inherited her weaving prowess from earlier Mycenaean goddesses, or if it developed later as part of her image as a complete goddess, wise, warlike, and wonderfully domestic. What's certain is that her loom was more than a hobby. It was a symbol, power wrapped in silk. And like all symbols, it was fiercely protected. But even goddesses have quiet nights. You tiptoe closer to one such evening, now peeking behind the veil of myth. Somewhere far from Attica, a girl with nimble hands threads her shuttle and hums to herself, completely unaware that every move she makes is being watched from Olympus. And here's your first quirky tidbit. Some ancient weavers used spider silk mixed with flax to create incredibly fine threads. That's right, spider silk. You probably wouldn't want to wear that to a toga party, though. Sticky in all the wrong places. Back in the village, the firelight is fading. You can almost hear the hush of looms slowing, the gentle clack of wood giving way to the softer rhythm of breathing. Above, the stars shift slightly, like they're settling in too. You lie back, gaze upward, and wonder just how many threads it would take to stitch a sky. 1 in a million. And whose hands would be patient enough to try? You're not quite asleep yet, but your limbs are heavier. The story is just beginning, and already you can feel the threads wrapping gently around your imagination. You wake, or maybe you were never quite asleep, in a place where thunder murmurs behind clouds and marble columns shine faintly in the moonlight. You're walking through the gardens of Olympus now, the air perfumed with thyme, myrrh, and just a hint of divine ego. There's no one around at first, but you can sense her presence. Athena. She doesn't make an entrance. She materializes as though she's always been here and only now let you notice. Her eyes are storm-colored gray, steady unblinking. In one hand, she holds a spear ceremonial, more than practical tonight. In the other, the real weapon, a shuttle made of polished olive wood. You follow her down a path where the roses bloom in geometric spirals and the owls blink slowly from their perches. She doesn't speak, but the click-click of her sandals tells you this isn't leisure, it's focus, purpose. Athena has something to show you. Inside a small portico, there it is, her loom. Not just a tool, but an altar. It glows faintly as though some of its threads are made of starlight. You lean in. Is that the Battle of Troy? Yes, but rendered in silk, so fine the shields shimmer when the wind shifts. There's Helen looking bored, Achilles throwing a tantrum, and Athena herself overseeing it all from above like a cosmic referee. This loom is her diary, her courtroom, her legacy. She doesn't need to shout, she weaves. You watch her work. The shuttle flicks back and forth with impossible speed. Her hands move like they've known thread longer than thought. And in a way, maybe they have. After all, this is the goddess who sprang fully formed from the forehead of Zeus. No baby babble, no awkward teen years, just instant divine efficiency. Historians still argue whether Athena's role as a craftswoman came from merging earlier female deities, or if it was retrofitted onto her warrior image to soften the edges. Either way, she's not just wise, she's busy, and her workshop is rarely silent. But tonight there's something different in her movements. A pause, a tension. Her rhythm stutters. You glance at what she's weaving now, and it's not Troy, not Olympus. It's a small house in Ionia, a girl by a window, hands working thread like lightning. She sees Arachne, and whether she admits it or not, she's curious. Now here's your fringe tidbit for this section. Some ancient Greek looms were horizontal, requiring the weaver to lie on the floor and crawl around like a cat under a table. Not exactly graceful, but very effective, especially if you didn't mind a few bruises. Athena doesn't crawl. Her loom rises vertically like a sacred wall, each thread a pillar. But her fingers hesitate for the first time in, well, maybe ever. Because down on earth in a modest little town called Colophon, someone is getting very, very good. Not pretty good for a mortal good, but good enough that people are whispering, comparing, and the comparisons are getting louder. You sit on the cool marble floor and watch her try to focus. She starts another panel, an ocean scene, dolphins twisting through foamy waves, but her mind drifts. Back to Colophon, back to that girl. Arachne doesn't worship her. She doesn't even thank her. She claims no divine tutor, no muse, just skill, just practice, just herself. Which, let's be honest, would be fine if she weren't actually excellent. There's a kind of charm in watching someone fail arrogantly. But when someone succeeds arrogantly, that stings a little. Even for a goddess. And maybe especially for a goddess who invented both wisdom and the loom. Athena rolls her neck, slowly cracking some celestial tension. Then she starts weaving again, faster now, like she's trying to prove something. Not to the world, not to you, but to herself. Because even gods, it seems, can feel the twitch of rivalry. You glance at the tapestry again. That girl is still there, her head tilted, her brow furrowed, not in awe, in judgment. Athena frowns. The sky outside darkens a shade deeper. Somewhere on earth, a goat trips over a bucket. Probably unrelated. Probably. As you drift closer to the image, your vision swims. Suddenly, you're not on Olympus anymore. You're in that little Ionian house, the shuttle clicking, the girl humming, her fingers stained with dye, her floor covered in soft curls of wool. And in that moment, you understand something. This story isn't about gods teaching mortals their place. It's about what happens when mortals get good enough to make the gods nervous. You blink once, maybe twice, and suddenly the smell of Olympus incense, olive trees, faint celestial arrogance is gone. Now it's the rustic tang of lanolin, burnt wood, and sun-warmed flax. You're inside Arachne's house, and let's be honest, it's not exactly what you expected. No golden spindle, no enchanted dyes, no softly glowing loom delivered by nymphs. It's just a room, a little cluttered, a little loud. The cat is sitting on a half-finished pile of wool, looking deeply unimpressed. And at the center of it all, there she is, Arachne. Young, maybe 16, 17, depending on which version of the myth you prefer, and completely unaware of how many gods are keeping tabs on her. Her hair's up in a messy knot, held together with a bone needle. Her fingertips are calloused. Her eyes focused like a hawk staring down a thread. You watch her fingers dance over the warp and weft the yarn, leaping like it's eager to become something more. A pattern emerges, a hunting scene maybe, a lion mid-pounce. You can see the tension in its haunches, the terror in the deer's eyes. Every thread pulled tight with intention. She's not humming. She's not smiling. She's working. The kind of deep work that pulls your mind underwater, where hours disappear and only the rhythm remains. It's oddly hypnotic, like watching someone carve a sculpture with a toothbrush. And here's where things get interesting. People start showing up. Neighbors at first, old women, curious children, one guy who's only here because his sheep wandered off. Then visitors from other towns. They whisper, they marvel, they mutter that her hands must be blessed, that surely the goddess herself taught her. And Arachne hears them. No goddess taught me, she says one day, not even looking up from her loom. I taught myself. Now that's a line. One version of the tale says she added, let Athena herself compete with me if she dares. Another claims she simply rolled her eyes. Either way, the message was clear: I'm the best, and no one, not even a deity, is above me. Historians still argue whether this myth is a warning against pride or a backhanded celebration of talent. The Greeks, after all, were obsessed with arrayed excellence, and yet deeply suspicious of anyone who got too cocky about it. Be brilliant, yes, but be modest, or else. Quirky tidbit for this section. Some ancient looms used pebbles as weights to keep the threads taut. Pebbles. So next time you complain about a slow Wi-Fi connection, remember someone once held an empire's fashion together with rocks. Arachne doesn't care about any of that. She just wants to weave. Morning to dusk, her hands moving faster than thought. Her fingers, some say, move so quickly that birds would land nearby just to watch. Or maybe they were just looking for thread scraps. Birds are nosy like that. You look around her room. Every wall is covered in finished tapestries. Scenes from myths, yes, but not the tidy versions. Not the bedtime stories. There's Europa being taken by Zeus as a bull, her expression caught somewhere between confusion and dread. There's Leda and the swan, the feathers disturbingly lifelike. There's poor Daphne, mid-transformation, her fingertips turning into leaves as Apollo lunges. Not exactly flattering to the gods, but real, honest, human. And that perhaps is the most dangerous part. You step closer to one of her works and the threads almost seem to shift under your gaze. This isn't just art, it's commentary. Arachne doesn't just depict the gods, she critiques them, judges them, unravels their polished stories and spins them anew. Athena's temple may have columns, but Arachne's loom, that's her protest. And the whispers get louder. People debate in the markets. Is she blessed, cursed, crazy, brave? And then one day a stranger shows up. Old woman, gray hair tucked beneath a faded shawl, wrinkled hands, a voice like dust. Child, she says gently, you should be careful with your words. No mortal can compare with a goddess. Arachne doesn't even look up. If the goddess thinks she's better, she mutters, let her prove it. And the woman's eyes flash, just for a second. Then she straightens, taller now, less hunched. The shawl falls, and there she is, armor gleaming, eyes cold, pride sharper than any blade. Athena. Arachne blinks, just once, then nods. All right, she says, let's weave. The air in Arachne's workshop shifts like silk catching the breeze, or maybe a thundercloud inching over the sun. One moment it's full of chatter and wool dust, and the next it's dense with the kind of quiet that presses against your skin. Even the cat bolts under the loom, which frankly tells you all you need to know. You don't have time to marvel. The contest begins instantly. There's no divine fanfare, no audience of nymphs holding scorecards. Just two looms, two weavers, two wills colliding over cotton and myth. Athena stands, tall sleeves, rolled, her jaw clenched, like someone who's been told it's just a hobby one too many times. Her shuttle is made of olive wood carved with battle scenes. Her warp glows faintly as if each thread is steeped in ambrosia. Arachne grabs her own spindle. It's simpler, smooth bone, probably handed down through generations. But it hums with something just as strong, defiance. Thread by thread, the duel unfolds. Athena works fast. Her tapestry forms with mechanical perfection, every strand obeying without resistance. She weaves the glory of Olympus, the birth of the gods, the forging of Mount Olympus, the rise of Zeus with thunder in his fist. Her figures gleam like statues. Her landscapes gleam like mosaics. Her version of the divine majestic, unshaken orderly. And you think, okay, solid first move. Athena knows what's at stake. Now it's Arachne's turn. She doesn't look nervous. Her eyes scan her threads like a general eyeing the battlefield. And then she starts. At first it's soft, a field, a shepherd, a girl gathering flowers. But then suddenly Zeus disguised as a bull steals the girl away. Then another panel, Leda and the swan, her face trapped in confusion. Then again a golden shower descending on Danae in her prison tower. One after the other, Arachne weaves the stories the gods prefer to gloss over. The scandals, the seductions, the messy power plays. She renders them with such painful detail that the scenes pulse like open wounds. And not just the actions, but the expressions, fear, longing, defiance. It's uncomfortable, intimate, a calling out stitched in silk. Quirky tidbit for this section, some ancient Greek tapestries were so detailed that they included tiny woven signatures hidden in borders or folds of robes like ancient versions of Easter eggs. Arachne's doesn't bear her name, but it doesn't need to. Historians still argue whether Arachne's tapestries were meant to criticize the gods or simply tell the truth as she saw it. Some say she overstepped. Others argue she finally showed Olympus its own reflection. Athena sees it all, and for a moment, just a brief flicker, there's something in her expression that isn't anger. It's admiration, or maybe envy. But then it hardens. Because here's the truth, Arachne's tapestry is better. Technically, emotionally, narratively, it's simply more alive. And worse, it's honest. Athena finishes first. Her final panel, a triumphant Olympus, glows like stained glass. She steps back composed. She's done her duty. Arachne's last threads fall into place silent and sharp. She doesn't gloat, doesn't smirk. She simply stops weaving and lets the fabric speak. And it does, loudly. Even in silence, the contrast is deafening. The room goes still. You can hear the creak of the loom cooling, the breath caught in Arachne's throat, the faint shuffle of a divine sandal. Athena walks toward Arachne's tapestry. She studies each panel with deliberate slowness. Her fingers hover over the threads, careful not to touch. Her eyes flicker with calculation. And then softly she says, "Your work is flawless." Arachne's eyes widen, not quite believing what she's heard. But Athena adds, "You have no reverence." And just like that, the temperature drops. You don't see it happen. One heartbeat, Arachne is standing, breathing, glowing in the aftermath of creation. The next, her face twists like thread caught too tight on a spindle, and she's stumbling backward, gasping. Her arms reach for something, balance, mercy, understanding, but nothing comes. Athena's hand is still raised. No lightning, no fury, just a quiet clinical judgment. "I warned you," she says. And Arachne begins to change. Her skin loses color. Her fingers fuse and split again. Her limbs curl, compact, multiply. It's not violence, not exactly. It's design. You watch as her body folds in on itself. Her arms become legs. Her spine arcs like a bowstring. Her eyes multiply, blinking out of sync. And then she's gone. Not dead. Transformed. A small dark spider lowers herself from the edge of the loom, pausing in midair. Athena watches her, unreadable, and then walks away. There's a long pause now, an echoing quiet as if the world itself holds its breath. The spider that once was Arachne sways gently from her thread, hanging like a punctuation mark on the sentence of her old life. You lean in, watching her tiny legs twitch, uncertain, trying to make sense of this new form. She's silent, but the message is thunderous. Hubris has a cost, and the gods always cash in. Still, you can't help but notice something odd. Arachne doesn't fall. She doesn't skitter away in fear. She starts to spin. Tiny, intricate, impossibly delicate, her silk spills into the air like moonlight drawn thin. She climbs upward, repositions, and begins her new tapestry. No loom, no shuttle, just instinct and thread. That should have been the end, right? The lesson delivered, the punishment doled out. But like all great myths, things didn't quite wrap up in a neat little scroll. Because here's the twist, Arachne never stopped weaving. The gods might have cursed her, but they also unintentionally maybe ensured her immortality. You start to see it now in the corners of temples, the rafters of villas, the shadows of old olive groves. A pattern, spiders spinning silently, crafting endless webs. Not crude things either. Elegant, geometric, suspiciously beautiful if you really look. Historians still argue whether this was Athena's act of cruelty or her strange version of mercy. Did she destroy a rival, Or did she grant her eternal purpose wrapped in 8 legs and silk? Let's pause a moment, shall we breathe in? There's a fine layer of dust in this room now, drifting like antique snowflakes, the kind that smells like wool ash and myth. The cat has returned, by the way, and is watching the spider with a gaze that says, I could eat you, but I won't. Not yet. You watch Arachne's web grow, each strand anchored with calculated precision. Her design is orderly, hypnotic, almost meditative. There's no anger in her movements, no hesitation. If anything, she seems at peace, perhaps even relieved. Quirky tidbit. The oldest known image of a spider web comes from a Minoan fresco dating to around 1700 BCE. Even then, humans were already fascinated by these natural tapestries. Maybe they suspected something deeper, some glimmer of a story lost between warp and weft. Outside, the wind stirs the leaves. Birds call from the trees. Somewhere in another village, someone's telling the tale already, their voice low and dramatic. They say she challenged the goddess herself. No way, that's suicide. And lived, sort of. In some versions of the myth, regional variants retold in Ephesus or Rhodes, Athena regretted her punishment. She saw the craftsmanship in Arachne's final act, the stoic acceptance of her fate, and granted her the right to live on, in another form. Less human, yes, but free to weave for eternity. You shift slightly, imagining what that feels like. To be made into something new, to lose everything, and yet still find purpose in the quiet labor of your hands or legs in this case. There's something hauntingly modern in that. Reinvention through adversity, transformation that doesn't erase who you were, but folds it inward like silk inside a cocoon. And here's another layer. Athena herself, goddess of wisdom, wasn't just the patron of warriors and philosophers. She was the goddess of crafts, of weaving specifically. Of course she took Arachne's challenge personally. Of course it felt like a duel of equals. That's the part no one says out loud. That for a fleeting moment they weren't goddess and mortal, they were rivals. And Arachne might have won. But gods don't like to lose. The tale spreads. In each retelling, the emphasis shifts. In some, Arachne's arrogance is the moral. In others, her artistry. The Romans get a hold of it later and give it a more theatrical flair, because of course they do. Arachne becomes a symbol of transformation. Artistry, defiance, feminine rage, and divine retribution all rolled into one. And the spider no longer just a creature to fear. It becomes a vessel of legacy, a weaver of memory. Arachne's descendants, if you can call them that, spin webs in every dark corner, quietly reminding us that truth once told cannot be unspun. There's a final quiet moment here. Athena alone back on Olympus, her armor set aside. She looks out over the mortal world, her eyes narrowing at the sight of one particularly intricate spiderweb catching dew in the dawn light. She doesn't smile, not quite, but she doesn't destroy it either. And that maybe is the closest a god comes to saying I was wrong. You're sitting in a small courtyard now, dusty stone under your feet, olive branches rustling overhead, and you begin to realize this tale isn't just about weaving, it's about women. Women in myths, women in labor, women in resistance, and more specifically, how their stories get threaded into the margins. Because here's the thing about the Greek world, spinning and weaving weren't just chores. They were sacred, they were power. In ancient households, especially in Athens, the loom wasn't shoved into a forgotten room. It was central. Women spun thread while they gossiped, raised children, composed songs. Their hands stayed busy while their minds wandered, weaving both cloth and commentary. You would have been hard-pressed to find a noblewoman or even a goddess who wasn't associated with the act of spinning. Even Penelope, Odysseus's famously patient wife, holds off her suitors not with a sword but with a loom. She promises she'll choose one when her tapestry is finished, and then secretly unpicks it every night. Now that's strategy. But let's return to Arachne. Her real scandal wasn't her hubris, it was her refusal to stick to the script. She didn't weave what was expected. She didn't glorify the gods. She showed what they tried to hide. It's the mythological version of going viral for calling out your boss on social media. And we all know how that ends. Historians still debate whether the Arachne myth originated as a cautionary tale for unruly women or a quiet tribute to artistic rebellion. Some versions lean hard into the don't challenge authority angle. Others suggest Arachne was meant to represent mortal talent that transcends divine control. It's a kind of eternal creative tension, Where's the line between tribute and critique? Here's a quirky tidbit: in some ancient Greek festivals, women performed weaving rituals dedicated to Athena, using real wool and symbolic gestures to commemorate the founding myths. But guess what? None of those rituals ever mentioned Arachne. It's like someone very high up decided to quietly erase her from the records. And yet she's still here, isn't she? Tucked in corners, hanging from the eaves. She became impossible to forget precisely because she was meant to be. You feel the weight of that sitting among the figs and tiles and goat smells of a long-gone village. Arachne's silence says more than Athena's thunder ever could. The spider in front of you finishes another web, this one, between two weathered columns. It's so delicate you nearly miss it except for the shimmer where the light hits. You stare longer. Something about its pattern reminds you of Arachne's tapestry, or maybe of something deeper, more ancient. Here's something wild: scientists today have mapped the radial symmetry of spiderwebs and found they follow fractal-like math. The web isn't just functional, it's art, geometry, poetry in motion. And Arachne, she's doing this instinctively now in silk finer than a human hair. Still think it was just a punishment. You close your eyes and try to imagine what it felt like that moment she changed. Did she scream or did she go quiet, heart-hammering, limbs bending in unnatural ways until she simply was? And once she was no longer human, did it hurt less? Because here's a thought that creeps up on you, soft as thread slipping through fingers. Maybe transformation was her escape. Maybe spinning gave her back the control Athena tried to take. You think back to Athena, watching that final tapestry, the one that shamed the gods, thread by thread, and not tearing it down. That matters. The gods could have erased the whole moment. They didn't. Because they couldn't. Even when you're punished for truth, truth survives in the telling. Arachne's story may have unraveled her body, but it wove her soul into legend. And that's no small thing. The sun is beginning to dip. You can almost feel the weight of time now, like centuries stacked into the folds of an old robe. You adjust your seat on the stone bench. There's a splinter in your palm, something rough, real, grounding you to this ancient memory. A soft breeze kicks up, tugging at the edges of the web in front of you. Arachne tireless repositions, spinning again, unbothered, unbent, unforgotten. You're still sitting in that courtyard, the sky now painted in soft dusk blues, and a question lingers in your mind like the scent of lavender smoke. How exactly did Arachne's story survive? Because let's be honest, Greek myths were often curated like a museum gift shop. The gods look noble, the mortals look grateful, and everything wrapped up neatly with some lightning bolts and moral clarity. But Arachne's tale is messy, awkward, the kind of story that makes you squirm a little. And yet it's here, still whispered, still spinning. You trace the path of how it got here. The earliest version we know comes from Ovid's Metamorphoses, written around 8 CE. That's the Roman Empire, by the way, a few centuries after the height of classical Greece, and a whole lot more dramatic. The Romans loved a good transformation. Their myths didn't just end in death, they ended in poetic, ironic, often unsettling metamorphosis. It was less crime and punishment, more consequence and rebranding. Arachne fits right in. In Ovid's telling, she's bold, brilliant, and unrepentant. Even in defeat, there's no real groveling. She speaks truth to power, and for that, she's transformed, but not destroyed. Which brings us to a curious idea. What if Ovid didn't mean for you to pity her? What if he meant for you to admire her? Historians still argue whether Ovid was subtly rebelling against authoritarian rule himself, using myth to critique the powers above without risking his Roman neck. Arachne in that reading becomes more than a mortal. She becomes a mirror, not just for Athena, but for every reader too proud, too clever, too unafraid of consequence. You stretch out a leg, your foot brushing against a cracked tile with a painted spiral, once bright, now faded to the color of memory. Spirals again, always spirals. The natural shape of webs of stories of punishments that loop back on themselves. Here's your quirky tidbit. The Latin word for spider is aranea, which directly echoes Arachne's name. Coincidence? Possibly. But linguistic historians think it may have evolved from the Greek root arachne, turning her name into a universal symbol. Every time someone says arachnid, they're speaking her story without even realizing it. You can almost hear Arachne smirk. But survival isn't just about etymology. It's about subtext. About women, especially mortal ones, carving out a legacy in a mythos dominated by thunderous men and divine egos. Arachne never led armies. She didn't seduce gods. She didn't birth heroes. She just wove. And still she endures. There's a power in that. Quiet, steady, thread-by-thread power. You glance around the courtyard and imagine all the unseen stories that must have existed here. The weavers who never challenged goddesses, but still had opinions. The mothers who passed down the Arachne tale not as a warning, but a kind of sly encouragement. Don't mouth off to a goddess, they'd say, unless your tension is even and your pattern is flawless. You wonder how many girls lay awake at night, hands itchy for thread eyes bright with forbidden ambition. And that's the secret, isn't it? Arachne became legend, not just because she was turned into a spider, but because her story offered a glimpse of what could be. A mortal challenging the rules. A woman unafraid of her own talent. A weaver whose work said something. Now look up. The first stars are out. One in particular glows low and golden, maybe not a star actually. Maybe a planet or a memory. It doesn't matter, it shines. You shift your weight again, and in the stillness you start to hear it, the rhythmic click of thread being pulled somewhere nearby. Not a loom, just the patient work of a spider doing what she does best. No drama, no audience, just a web and a purpose in the unbreakable thread of legacy. Arachne might not have gotten applause from Olympus, but she got something better: continuity. Every spider spinning in the moonlight, every whisper of silk against stone. Every time someone flinches at a web, pauses and marvels just for a second at its beauty. They don't realize they're admiring her work, but they are. And she knows. The night deepens around you and the air cools, carrying the faint scent of earth and old stone. You lean back against a wall, letting your mind drift through the layers of this ancient story, thinking about what it meant to live in a world where myths weren't just bedtime stories, but explanations for everything from why the sun rose to why spiders spun their webs. You remember that weaving was not just a craft, but a language, a way to tell stories without words. Every thread was a sentence, every pattern a chapter. For women, weaving was a means of communication, a silent dialogue with gods and mortals alike. Athena, as goddess of wisdom and crafts, personified this sacred art. But what happens when a mortal speaks too loudly in that silent language, when her weaving challenges the divine narrative instead of glorifying it? You start to see Arachne's tapestry not just as a piece of cloth, but as a bold statement. A mortal telling truths the gods tried to hide. You can almost hear the threads whispering secrets about the gods' flaws, their jealousies, their petty conflicts. Imagine the courage it took for a young woman in ancient Greece to spin such stories knowing the risk. Historians still debate whether the story of Arachne was originally meant as a warning or a celebration. Was it to remind women to know their place, or to honor those who dared to challenge it? Here's a quirky fact: in some ancient Greek art, spiders appear alongside scenes of domestic life, often near women weaving or spinning. Could this be a subtle nod to Arachne's legacy, a silent wink across the centuries? You watch the tiny spider nearby, its legs moving with delicate precision. It's working tirelessly, weaving a web that will trap the morning's first dew. You smile to yourself, realizing that this everyday act is a kind of quiet rebellion against oblivion. It's easy to imagine how Arachne's story echoed through generations passed from mother to daughter, like a secret stitch in a blanket. A reminder that even when the gods seem all-powerful, the mortal spirit can weave its own destiny. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the soft brush of night air on your skin and the faint sounds of the world settling down to sleep. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster crows, mixing with the rustle of leaves. And in the silence, you hear the gentle click of a spider's web growing stronger with every pull of silk. As the night stretches on and the stars blaze a quiet path across the sky, your thoughts turn to Athena herself. Not the thunderous goddess wielding spear and shield in battle, but Athena the weaver, the guardian of craft and skill. She was no mere deity of war. She was revered for wisdom and strategy, and yes, for the intricate arts that shape daily life. Imagine her presence in a bustling ancient household. The steady rhythm of a loom fills the room, the air thick with the smell of wool and beeswax candles. Women's hands move deftly, fingers dancing between threads. Athena watches, a subtle smile on her lips, until Arachne appears, weaving not the pious scenes of gods and heroes, but sharp, irreverent depictions of divine folly. You can almost feel Athena's shock. This wasn't the respectful homage she expected, it was a challenge. A naked critique of the immortal elite woven in stunning detail. This tension between goddess and mortal highlights a recurring theme in myth, the dangers of pride or hubris. But here hubris isn't just arrogance, it's artistic courage, a mortal's refusal to bow to divine censorship. Historians still argue whether the myth's core message was intended to uphold social order or to subtly question it. Was Arachne punished for overstepping, or was her transformation an ambiguous blend of punishment and preservation? Interestingly, the spider as a symbol carries dual meanings across cultures. In many traditions, it's both creator and trickster, a spinner of fate, but also a deceiver. You can see how this fits perfectly with Arachne's story. She's both punished and immortalized, silenced and yet endlessly creative. Here's a quirky tidbit: some ancient Greek pottery depicts spiders and weaving tools side by side, reinforcing the link between craft and cunning. This visual shorthand hints that the story of Arachne was well known and layered with meaning. You watch a spider delicately adjust its web in the dim light, its legs moving with uncanny grace. The creature seems almost proud, a silent echo of Arachne's indomitable spirit. You realize the myth isn't just about weaving or punishment. It's about the power of storytelling itself, how myths evolve, adapt, and spin their way into every corner of culture and consciousness. And just like a spider's web, these stories catch us sometimes unexpectedly and hold us gently in their intricate embrace. Night deepens around you, and the quiet rhythm of the spider weaving its web becomes a steady heartbeat in the darkness. Your mind drifts back to the broader world of Greek mythology, where gods and mortals frequently cross paths in ways that could be both beautiful and treacherous. You think about how weaving as a metaphor stretches far beyond the literal threads on a loom. It's a symbol of fate itself. The Moirai, the three fates, spun, measured, and cut the threads of human life. Your own story, your own time in the world is woven by unseen hands, just like Arachne's tapestry. It's fitting that a spider weaving her web with exquisite precision represents this idea so perfectly. The web is fate's fabric, spun in delicate complexity, vulnerable to the slightest disturbance. The tale of Arachne highlights this fragile balance between human agency and divine control. She dared to weave her own narrative, daring to expose the gods' imperfections, and in doing so, she risked being cut from the tapestry of humanity. Historians still debate how the story of Arachne reflected ancient Greek attitudes toward talent and ambition, especially female talent. Was it a cautionary tale discouraging women from stepping beyond accepted roles? Or was it a quiet nod to those who did? You find yourself wondering about the voices lost in the shadows, other mortal women who dared to create, to speak, to challenge. Here's a quirky fact. In some versions of the myth, after her transformation, Arachne's webs were said to be so beautiful that even Athena admired them secretly. Imagine that, a goddess grudgingly respecting her mortal rival's skill, even as she condemned her. That ambiguity lingers like a soft breeze, a reminder that stories aren't always black and white. You watch the spider, now illuminated by the moonlight, a tiny architect in a vast night. Its web glistens with dew, a fragile masterpiece hanging between two branches. And you realize every time you admire a spider's web, every time you pause to notice its delicate geometry, you're honoring Arachne's legacy, her creativity, her defiance, and her unyielding spirit. You breathe deeply, the cool night air filling your lungs, and you feel a gentle calm settling over you, like the final thread pulling tight. The web holds you, the story holds you, and for now, that is enough. You shift your gaze from the shimmering web to the wider world around you. The sounds of the night blending into a gentle symphony, the distant hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves stirred by a soft breeze, the occasional skitter of a small creature through the underbrush. It's the kind of night that invites quiet reflection, perfect for wandering through stories that feel both ancient and strangely alive. Athena's relationship with mortals was complicated. She was a protector, a teacher, but also a strict enforcer of boundaries. You can almost hear her voice in the myth: respect the god's domain or face the consequences. Yet she was also known for rewarding skill and cleverness. It's this tension that makes the story of Arachne so compelling, both a warning and a tribute. Imagine Arachne as a young woman in her village, her fingers nimble and sure as she works at the loom. She's proud, not arrogant, but proud of her skill. Her weaving tells stories of gods behaving badly, of mortal heroes with flaws that gods would rather hide. She's not just creating cloth, she's creating conversation. Historians still debate whether this myth served to uphold traditional values or subtly subvert them. Was Arachne's punishment meant to silence or immortalize her? Could her transformation be seen as a form of mercy, granting her eternal life in a new form? You lean back picturing the courtroom drama between mortal and goddess, a cosmic contest where the stakes are both personal and universal. Here's a quirky detail. In some ancient versions, Arachne's tapestry included scenes of the gods' less than perfect escapades, like Zeus's many disguises and romantic entanglements. This was scandalous storytelling in a time when the divine image was tightly controlled. You smile to yourself thinking about how storytelling has always been a way to push boundaries, to question authority, and to explore the messy truths behind polished myths. And now, as the night deepens, you feel a connection to those ancient voices, both mortal and divine, woven into the fabric of this timeless tale. The spider nearby finishes a delicate knot, its work precise and purposeful. It's a quiet reminder that even the smallest creatures play their part in the grand design. You close your eyes briefly, letting the peaceful rhythm of night and story wash over you, knowing that the threads of myth and reality are more intertwined than you ever imagined. Your mind wanders to the idea of transformation, both literal and metaphorical. Arachne's change from human to spider is one of the most famous metamorphoses in mythology, but it's not just about punishment. It's about survival and adaptation. The spider becomes a new kind of creator, spinning webs that catch not only flies, but also imaginations. You think about the symbolism. The spider, often overlooked or feared, is actually a master artisan, patient, precise, weaving complex patterns that are as functional as they are beautiful. In a way, Arachne's fate is a form of immortality, her story carried forward every time a spider spins a web. Historians still debate how much this myth reflects ancient Greek attitudes toward women's creativity and independence. Was Arachne's transformation a loss or a liberation? Some scholars suggest that becoming a spider allowed her to escape mortal limitations, living on as a symbol of artistic genius and defiance. Here's a quirky tidbit. In Japan, spiders are sometimes seen as protective spirits, weaving fate and guarding homes. Arachne's story may have parallels in other cultures, reminding us that weaving and storytelling are universal human experiences. You watch the spider now, its delicate legs moving with practiced grace, spinning silk that glistens in the moonlight. It's creating a masterpiece thread by thread, echoing the ancient human desire to shape the world through craft. The quiet night envelops you, and you feel the comforting weight of connection to the past, to nature, to the endless cycle of creation and transformation. You realize that stories like Arachne's are not just relics of another time. They're living threads in the fabric of who we are. They remind us to respect skill, to challenge authority gently, and to find beauty in the unexpected. And as the spider finishes its web, you settle deeper into the night, ready to drift into dreams woven from silk and story. The night air feels cooler now, and the quiet buzz of nocturnal life hums softly around you. Your thoughts float to how stories like Arachne's echo far beyond their origins. This myth, while deeply rooted in ancient Greece, speaks to a universal human experience, the tension between creative freedom and societal expectation. Imagine the loom again, the rhythmic clack of wooden shuttles moving back and forth, a sound both soothing and hypnotic. This was more than work. It was meditation, storytelling, survival. Weaving was an act of both obedience and rebellion. Arachne's defiance was risky. She challenged a goddess who embodied wisdom and craft, and in doing so questioned the very rules that governed her world. Yet her talent was undeniable, her skill extraordinary. This tension between talent and punishment is what gives the myth its lasting power. Historians still debate whether Arachne's story was originally a cautionary tale to keep women in their place, or an early feminist anthem celebrating female creativity and resilience. Here's an intriguing fact. Some ancient sources suggest Arachne's webs were so perfect that spiders everywhere inherited her skill. It's a poetic idea that mortal excellence can ripple through the natural world, influencing creatures beyond human reach. You gaze at the spider nearby, its body lit by moonlight, weaving an intricate design that seems to glow with quiet pride. The creature's patience reminds you of the slow work behind every masterpiece, the countless hours of repetition and focus. Stories like this remind you that creativity isn't always loud or grand. Sometimes it's a soft thread spun patiently in the quiet hours, a gentle rebellion wrapped in silk. As you breathe in the night stillness, you feel the slow weaving of your own thoughts and dreams tangled with the myth's delicate threads. The spider's web shimmers one last time, before the breeze carries a few strands away, like whispers fading into the night. The night seems to stretch infinitely, each breath slower and softer, as you sink deeper into the comfort of the story's gentle pull. You imagine the village where Arachne once lived, small, sun-warmed houses built of stone and clay, the hum of daily life punctuated by the rhythmic tapping of looms and the chatter of women sharing stories. Weaving was more than a chore, it was a communal act. The cloth created was both practical and symbolic, a blanket to warm a family, a garment to honor the gods, a tapestry to preserve history. Arachne's tapestry was unusual. Instead of glorifying the gods, she chose to expose their human-like flaws with startling honesty. This was a bold, even dangerous choice in a society where the divine was often portrayed as perfect and untouchable. Historians still argue about how audiences of the time would have reacted. Would they have seen Arachne as a reckless troublemaker or a truth-teller? The ambiguity adds to the myth's richness, allowing it to resonate across millennia. Here's a quirky historical fact. In some ancient Greek homes, spiders were welcomed as symbols of good luck and prosperity, believed to bring protection through their weaving. This adds another layer to Arachne's legacy. Her transformation didn't just punish, but also blessed. You watch the spider one last time, its web a fragile circle glowing softly in the moonlight. Each thread is a reminder of patience, resilience, and the power of creation. As you feel your eyelids grow heavier, the story wraps around you like a warm, familiar blanket. The tale of Arachne, woven with threads of myth, craft, and courage, lulls you gently toward sleep. The night carries you forward softly, quietly into dreams, spun from silken stories. The world around you dims further shadows, blending into soft shapes as the story nears its quiet close. You feel the steady, calming pulse of the night wrapping around you, much like the delicate web a spider weaves in the moonlight, intricate, patient, and strangely comforting. The tale of Arachne at its heart is about much more than weaving or divine punishment. It's about the human desire to create, to challenge, to be remembered. She reminds us that talent can be a double-edged thread, bringing both admiration and risk. You reflect on how myths like this one have shaped cultures, influencing art, literature, and even science. The spider's web has long inspired human innovation, from architecture to technology, showing how nature's quiet masterpieces echo through human creativity. Historians still debate whether the story serves as a moral lesson or a celebration of creativity's rebellious spirit. Perhaps it is both, woven together like the finest tapestry. A quirky note to end on: spiders produce silk stronger than steel by weight, a natural marvel that might have sparked awe and respect even in ancient times. It's no wonder Arachne's transformation into such a creature made her legend endure. You take a slow breath, feeling the softness of night seep into your bones. The world fades gently and you realize that you're wrapped in the comforting threads of myth and night. The spider's web glistens faintly one last time before night fully embraces the world. Your eyes close the story, settling like a soft whisper at the edge of dreams. The fabric of this tale now becomes part of your own sleep-woven journey. The night stretches endlessly before you, each breath slower than the last, as the story gently loosens its hold. You feel the quiet pulse of calm in your chest, like a soft lullaby sung by the night itself. The weaving of tales and silk alike becomes a soothing rhythm, pulling you deeper into restful ease. The spider's web, delicate and perfect, reminds you that creation is a patient, gentle act, unfolding slowly in the quiet moments. Just as Arachne spun her story in threads, both bold and fragile, your thoughts begin to soften and unwind, drifting free from the day's noise. There is a peace here, woven with soft, light shadow and the gentle hum of night, that invites you to surrender to rest. No need to rush or resist. The night is a sanctuary, a space for quiet dreams and gentle renewal. As your breathing slows and your body relaxes, the story fades into the background, like the last golden threads of twilight. You are safe, held in the soft embrace of myth and night, ready to drift into the calm, silken dark. Sleep well, wrapped in the stories of old, carried softly on the wings of night.